I call people like me who's been here for so long and you a bit of a Dubai dinosaurs.
I made my first dollar online, and as I made that first dollar, he said, well, once you've made one, you can make as many as you want.
How did you feel that the world needs this?
It just became really very obvious to me that there was a gap in the market, a business perspective.
What age is important to start?
Young people saying, well, I want to be an influencer. I want to be a YouTuber. I want to be, famous on TikTok. That's fine. I don't have an issue with that. But do you know what that means?
Does it mean that I need to know a lot about technology?
It's an education and an awareness initiative. And it is designed to share some of the knowledge that I have with mums, dads, and children.
And I'll be the first one to sign in, definitely. Hi guys, I've created this podcast to share endearing stories of people behind successful companies. And in my world, success is not about how much money you have in your pocket, but it's about the impact that you bring on this planet and people's life. Today, my guest is an entrepreneur with a big heart. He's not only a serial entrepreneur and one of the first podcasters in the UAE, but also co-founder of an amazing initiative that protects the most important people of our lives, our kids. So please, if you like this podcast, as my team always reminds me, share, like, comment. Thank you very much. And welcome my guest, Barry Lee Cummings.
Hi there. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Barry. It took us almost a year, we've counted, to have this podcast. And finally, I think it's already a big achievement.
It is. Just to get in the same room, like you say.
Yes.
I think we worked it out. Literally 12 months of the first initial conversations to different countries, to children's sickness, to us being sick, to today. Finally, we get to have this chat.
Through all these troubles.
Exactly.
Barry, thank you very much again. I'd like to start with your business journey in the UAE. So I know you've been here for 17 years, right? Yeah. And I call people like me who's been here for so long and you a bit of a Dubai dinosaurs. No offense.
None taken.
Because we've seen it all before Dubai became what it is, an amazing city. Yeah. To what it is today. So before and after. Tell me please about your journey here.
Yeah, so it was one of those typical stories when it started, because I was in London working for Microsoft, and one day I got off the tube and it was grey and it was raining, and I just said, what am I doing? And at the time, my family lived here. My mum and dad lived in the UAE. My sister also lived here. And so I thought, you know what, I'm going to go. And my plan at that stage was I left my job. I did my teaching English as a foreign language qualification, and I was flying to China to teach English, learn Mandarin, and then I'd go back to the UK and become this middleman for business, being able to speak Mandarin and English. And I thought, on my way, I'll just stop in here and see my family. And so I did, and I stopped here, and 17 years later, I'm still here.
You're still here?
I didn't get to China.
Have you got...
No, I never got there. I got to Hong Kong, which is where my mum is from, but I didn't get to China, and I didn't get to learn Mandarin. But the UAE kind of captured me back then, and the reason I stayed is because I looked around and said, wow, what's happening here? This is interesting. This was 2005. So everything was on the up. Everybody was a lot younger. I was a lot younger. I was free, single, and Dubai was booming. Everything you looked around, this is awesome. What a great life to lead. And everything was happening. We're making good money, no responsibilities as such. I thought, well, let me just check out. And I thought, well, maybe I could teach English here. And back then, even only 17 years ago, even actual teachers who were teaching real subjects, not just English as a foreign language, they were not getting a good package. They were not even getting visas. Many of them at their stage always had to do the Oman run and come back. I remember
those Oman runs.
Exactly. And I thought, well, I'm not sure that I want to do that. And then anyway, I thought, well, let's investigate the job market and what's going on. And I got involved with a couple of companies. I left Microsoft because I'd had enough of the IT industry, inevitably ended up back in the IT industry, and then again got to 2008, 2009, and global crash.
Yeah.
And I was one of those that ended up without a job. And
were you here? I remember
here.
those.
Yeah.
I was scary times.
It was really bad. And, I was working for a company. It was a Microsoft partner. They were gold accredited, but also one of those scenarios where we hadn't been paid for 3 months. I was
Still
managing
the same
teams.
scenario here.
It was so horrible. And anyway, the short story is I got made redundant because I kind of said to the guys, look, what's going on? We've got teams of people here. Back in the days when, you wrote a check for your rent, and if it bounced, you went straight to prison.
Yeah.
And so lots have changed over the years. But then I said, look, these guys have got stuff coming up. And then he said, okay, thank you very much. Bye-bye. I was like, oh, okay. But it put me out into the market along with a lot of other people that had the same or better experience.
That was when 2009?
2008, 2009.
Yeah,
so it was actually 2009.
I remember those times.
Yeah, it was a really horrible time for a lot of people.
Yeah.
But it's also, I have to look at it as the blessing, because I'd kind of said to myself, I didn't want to be in that job anymore. I then got made redundant. The universe listens. And then I came out, but then I hadn't really thought about the next steps. So I said, oh, okay, in a market, lots of more talented people out there. What am I going to do? And again, my dad said to me, what are you doing this weekend? And I said, I haven't got any plans. He said, you should come with me to Knowledge Village, as it was then. And there was an event going on, and it was about how you make money on the internet.
Oh.
And so I said, oh, okay, I'll come with you. And we went there, and we got there, and there's hundreds of people trying to get into this room. And saying, okay. And then we listened, and I said, yeah, okay, it sounds a little bit like a scam, to be honest. But to be fair to the guy who was doing it, I went to him afterwards and said, okay, I'm not sure I entirely believe everything you've said, but will you show me? And he said, yeah. And so he taught me a couple of things over the next couple of months about AdSense back then. And I made my first $1 online. And as I made that first $1, he said, well, once you've made one, you can make as many as you want. You just have to adapt it. And so I got taken into the internet marketing world at that stage. Built a load of businesses online. I was an affiliate marketer back then. So all I knew how to do was find a product, find a market, put them together with a website, and then I got paid a commission by the product owners. I did that for a couple of years. And then as this was happening, people were saying, hey, what are you doing, Barry? Because you don't have a job. How are you making money? And I sort of explained it, and they said, okay, I don't understand. But if that's what you're doing, could you maybe help my business? And so I started kind of consulting, if you like, for some of my friends who were marketing managers and general managers. And all I started doing, I had my online businesses, is they would come to me with a piece of paper, and it was a proposal from a digital agency. And they would say to me, what does this mean? what does this mean? Because I don't get it. What is SEO? What is CTR? What are all of these acronyms? And is this a good figure? I mean, I don't know whether I'm being ripped off or whether this is something I really need to do. And so I'd help them with that, say, okay, well, these guys are jokers. These guys know. Talk to these two guys. They seem to know what they're talking about. And anyway.
Did you charge money for it?
No, for that I didn't, to begin with, because I was just helping my friends out, right?
Yeah.
Then what happened was Google changed the rules, and my online businesses, I had around 55 of them.
Oh, wow.
They all got taken down because Google changed the rules. They said, we don't like this. Why doesn't the product owner just come directly and sell it to their clients? So anyway, Google changed the rules. I lost all of my online businesses. And so I moved into the consultancy side of things because people were saying, why aren't you charging people for this help that you're doing? And so I then started to, and then those people said, well, okay, you're doing the strategy, which is what we talked about then. And then I said, now you can go out to market and find a specialist in these areas. And then they come back to me and say, well, can you do it? Because you've done the strategy. Can't you just execute on this? So then I built an agency and a team around it. And we went from doing everything, and then things tightened up. So then we went down to doing not so much. And over that time, it evolved into talking with lots of general managers, marketing directors, and so forth. But once you took away their job title, I was talking to mums and dads. And this is the evolution into what turned into Beat the Cyberbully, which is the initiative. This mission, which we started in 2014, actually, to reduce the gap between what mums and dads know about the digital space and what our children know about it. And I can sit here with you and say we failed, because in 2022 the gap's bigger. Mums and dads have gone further behind, children have gone further forwards, and that's a big problem.
And I want to actually touch upon that. You know, being here for more than half of my life, and this is a beautiful country that gives you a feeling of being safe.
Mm-hmm.
And it's to the point that every cell of your body feels safe.
Yep.
And you feel that's the world that is out there. And I've never thought until I met you that cyberbullying is a big thing. I thought we're protected.
Yeah.
But we're maybe physical world protected. But in digital world, we're not at all. So how did you even come up? How did you feel that this is the world needs this? Where did it all start?
So it started in the digital world.
Yes,
enough,
in digital.
It started in my agency, but then even Beat the Cyberbully started in the digital world because I had an office in Media City, and I was in the office, and it must have been around 2013, 14, just scrolling through Twitter, and there was a guy that said, "Hi, I'm any digital people in Dubai, fancy a coffee? I'm staying at the Media One." And literally, my office was across from the Media One. And I said, "Oh, hi, I am. You free now?" And literally from that interaction, Wayne, who's my business partner now, we got together. He had a digital agency in Ireland. We were talking about digital. And then he was transitioning across into this whole cyberbullying, digital awareness side of things because of his experience with two young boys at that point, his sons. They were going through stuff, and he was realizing that all of his knowledge was something that could be applied. He asked me, he said, "Oh, do you have a problem in the UAE with things like cyberbullying?" I said, "I don't know," because I've never really looked at it. And then very quick bit of research, it's like, oh, it doesn't matter where you are in the world. If there's access to the internet and social media, we have a problem with cyberbullying, online abuse, and the issues that affect young people. So that's where it started. And so it just became really very obvious to me that there was a gap, a gap in the market from a business perspective, if you like, because it is a not-for-profit, but we still charge for the sessions that we run. But also, more importantly, a gap in the market of knowledge. And that I could see the potential danger, and it's unfolding and has been ever since, of children being let loose on the internet with smartphones and tablets and whatnot, and mum and dad not really understanding the potential dangers of doing that and allowing them to be online unfiltered, unfettered. And yes, sometimes it's great because you can have a meal at a restaurant because they're watching that, but do you know what they're doing? Do you know who's watching them? Do you know what's being sent to them and all of this kind of stuff? And that's what we try to really focus on. So it started through, again, a random online interaction with, at that point, a complete stranger on a social media channel. And it's one of the stories that we tell because that's the positive power.
Yeah, that's the positive of this issue. Yeah. How a positive interaction became such an important initiative also that protects us.
Exactly.
So Beat the Cyberbully, just if we summarize a little bit, what is it exactly?
So it's an education and an awareness initiative. And it is designed to share some of the knowledge that I have with mums, dads, and children and caregivers. You don't have to be a mum or a dad. Anybody that has young people in their life that they care about. It's about helping them understand these are, yes, we all heard about Facebook and Twitter and TikTok and YouTube, but do you understand how they work? Do you understand how people use them? From a parental perspective, do you understand what your children are doing? From a child and student perspective, it's like, you know what you're doing here by putting all of this information out there, who has access to you, what they can use that information for, and trying to get people to see a clearer picture of it so that they can use it all for the positive side of things, but also protect themselves. And a big part of our initiative is empowerment. It's about giving, mums and dads and children the ability to make positive decisions online and see a situation and go, yeah, I don't think I want to do that. The way I think about it is that when we were growing up, it was more like we got street smarts by you were out there doing stuff, and you could see in the park or on the street, you could see physically a situation unfolding like, ooh, I don't want anything to do with that. And you just turn around and go the other way, or you cross over the street and get out of harm's way, and then whatever happens, happens. And it's trying to help people do that in the digital space, because you can go headlong into these situations, and you've seen so many young people making mistakes, and then it becomes global news. They go viral for the wrong reason, and then for a long period of time, that young person is forever, oh, that's the kid that did this, that's the kid that this happened to, and they get recognized for it. And then they get all of this attention from random strangers all over the world saying, oh, you're a terrible person because you said that and did this. And for a young person to deal with that, it's a lot. It's a lot for an adult to deal with. And you see a lot of so-called influencers and famous people suffering mental issues because of what they have to deal with in the online space. And so we try to help young people understand that these tools are incredible and you can do so much good, but also here's the full picture, because what a lot of the people they idolize and look up to, they don't talk about some of the negative stuff that they have to deal with. You know, the top 5 influencers on TikTok and YouTube, they're starting to a little bit more talk about this, but not many of them talk at length about how much hatred they have to endure. You know, how many people tell them that they're horrible, they're fat, they're this, you know, all of this stuff keeps coming at them, and they don't talk about how they learn how to filter it out. And so young people saying, well, I want to be an influencer, I want to be a YouTuber, I want to be, you know, famous on TikTok. That's fine. I don't have an issue with that. But do you know what that means? And that's where there's this gap.
So $1 million question, how can we protect our kids from this? And also, what age is important to start?
Right. I mean, the age is important to start as young as possible, because in the UAE, you know, you just have to walk around and you see there's 6-month-olds in prams holding an iPhone.
I mean, that's for me is a bit.
It is, but it's true.
Early, I think.
You know, and you're not going to have conversations with the 6-month-old. But what you can do is that you can not give them the iPhone.
Okay, so you start by not giving the iPhone. That's the first.
At that age, and then as they're that 4 or 5-year-old, they're understanding what it is. They will have seen us with them, right? And they've seen us on our phones and whatnot. So this is really, really important, is that we as parents and adults have to think about how we use the technology.
Right.
Because if our 4-year-old, I've got a 5-year-old, my 5-year-old sees me on my phone all of the time, what does he want? He wants a phone. And if he gets a phone, he's not going to, by the way, but if he gets a phone at 5 years old, he's going to want to be on it all the time because daddy is, because mummy is. So we have to think about what example we are setting to our children. Mm-hmm. And at this age, I think 4 or 5 years old, we start talking to them about the internet and what's available and how they listen to music on Spotify or Apple Music and these kind of things. So you're introducing them to the technology, but you're doing it together. First of all, and this is a really big one for us, is this idea of we time, not me time. What we see is a lot of people giving their kids these devices and saying, okay, go and be quiet. And they are quiet. But actually, when they have this opportunity, is that if we sit with them initially, say, okay, well, let's read a book or watch a video, watch YouTube together on your iPad, and we show them how to use it. We make sure that we put things like parental controls on there so that we know that it's locked down. And then we work through this together. And that's the only way that we know how. There's no magic formula to protecting them. The only way that we have seen it being effective is when mum and dad have been heavily involved in our children's digital lives, guiding them, doing stuff with them, and still providing them with alternatives as well. You know, the last few years has forced everybody online. And so we have to, we still want to get balance and time away from the screen, but really as mums and dads, we need to focus on what they're doing on the screen, because the screen's not going anywhere. It's here. And we want to be able to start saying, okay, well, you're going to be spending time on there. What are you doing? Okay. And again, we have to come to this question is, if I said to you, right, for your daughter, she's just spent 2 hours on her iPad. You're like, okay, she's not supposed to spend 2 hours on her iPad. I say, oh, but she was learning French for the whole 2 hours.
I could never figure out, is this good or bad?
And so you say, well, she was learning French. Yeah. And again, if they're genuinely doing it, not just telling you that they were learning French and doing other stuff, but you go back and you look at the history and say, oh yeah, they just spent 2 hours on the French learning app and she's been doing that. Is that a bad thing? In my opinion, no. That time spent learning French or whatever it is doing versus playing Roblox or Minecraft or scrolling through Instagram and all of this stuff. Well, that's a different story. Then I would say, well, no, that's not really an effective use of their time, especially depending on their age. And this idea is about investing in themselves versus wasting time. So investing time versus wasting time. And that's really where we need to get to with the conversation now, because they're going to go online. They're going to use these devices. Schools, you know, it's part of being at school now. It's part of their life as well. Their social life is managed on this. So if we just say, oh, you can't have it, that's going to have an impact as well, because I know that I don't, knowing what I know, but I still don't want my sons to be the odd one out who then get singled out for being the only kid in class without a smartphone and then get bullied because of that. And it's trying to find that balance of where we sit in this. And again, the unfortunate thing is it's different for everybody, because we're all raising our children the way that we know how. And that means there's a billion, well, now there's 8 billion of us on this planet. There's literally billions of different ways that this unfolds. And you might think that, 30 minutes of time is all they're going to get. And then I might say, well, 2 hours is fine. It's, okay, well, where do we draw the line? Because then if I'm saying 2 hours, you're saying 30 minutes, our kids are friends. They're always going to hang out at my house because, we're 2 hours. And so we've got to kind of get everybody close to the same page, and the only way we can do that is through talking about it, conversations, and increasing the level of education and awareness around it. And that's what we try to do in a very small way.
Right. I mean, this is the whole iPad thing is the battle of my life now.
Yeah.
I'm the one that was trying to protect my kids from the technology until the age of 5. So no phones, nothing.
Right.
They would rather run around restaurants like crazy ones.
Yeah.
And now that's it, is the point that we cannot anymore. Yeah. So now what's next?
So just on that point, there's something actually that was said by a question that was asked of Gary Vaynerchuk in one of his videos, and it was by a mum about how do I protect my 9-year-old in the online space. And I thought his answer was brilliant, and it was build her self-esteem. And I think that is really, really important, because if we can build our children's self-esteem and give them the comfort and the confidence to make positive decisions, and that somebody saying something about them is not really about them but more about the person saying it, that helps them protect themselves from all of this stuff that's coming at them in the online space. And I actually thought that was a brilliant answer.
That's even more difficult than just confiscating iPad.
Absolutely, yeah. Because if we confiscate it, you know what they're going to do.
It's easy. You just confiscate, building self-esteem.
They'll find another way. You confiscate it, which is no internet. They'll find a way to get on. Just like we did when we were kids. Our parents said, don't do this. Then we find the other way to go and do it. They're going to do the same thing. And if we start pushing them down that road, then it's even harder for us to do anything about it, because we'll say to them, okay, we think as mum and dad, they have no device, we've banned them, we've turned the internet off in our house, they're safe. And we couldn't be more wrong, because they'll just be going to their friends and going and finding any other way to get online and do stuff. And then when we ask them, they say, no,
it's okay.
What can I do, mum? You've taken my stuff. I'm not doing anything. And yet there they are, leading a life that we now have zero involvement in. And that, I think, is really dangerous, exactly. Yeah, it can be catastrophic sometimes, but there's a huge amount of danger involved there. Yeah.
So you said that one of the things to start is to talk about technology with them. Yeah. Does it mean that I need to know a lot about technology, because I don't really know much? I mean, and it's exaggerating, but
it's a great question, because it is. And there's a lot of parents that I talk to that they say, well, I don't know anything about this. And my response to that is, yes, we do need to upgrade our own understanding of this. And this is a big part of what we do with Beat the Cyberbully, is over the last couple of years, as much as the students and children need help, our focus has been mum and dad, because it's us as mums and dads that are going backwards. Because if you've been involved in the technological world, then okay, you might know a little bit about it. But I've talked to a lot of mums and dads who are in the technology space, and they're like, I didn't know that. I didn't even know that. So what hope does mums and dads that have no connection with the technology space have? And that's what we're trying to do, is to try and not dilute, but to take all of this information and turn it into a language that you can understand as a non-technical person, and go, okay, what I need to do is I need to look at this software. I can go online and Google, for example, the Gryphon router. You can do that. You can look and go, okay, I don't know what on earth this thing is. Oh, it's a Wi-Fi router. Okay. I can learn a little bit about it just by watching the videos and looking at it online. And a lot of these now are plug and play. So, okay, well, I can order it. I can plug it into my network at home. I can go onto the app, and most of us are familiar with apps, and I can follow the instructions, say, how long would you like access to the internet? Oh, okay, well, it can be on between 6 and 7. What can they do? This. Can they do that? No, this, that. And you set it up. And that's kind of like the base level, because then at least there's some parameters in place. And more importantly, that we're talking to our children about why we're doing that, depending on their age, of course, because as they reach those tween and teen years, they're going to be saying, so unfair, I hate you, mum, I hate you, dad, you don't understand, I've got no privacy, all the stuff that we also said to our parents. But if we've been having those conversations from a younger age, then this is just how we do this as a family. These are the rules, and until you are buying your own phone and paying your own phone bill, these are the rules of engagement. And if you don't like it, then okay, now I will take it away, because I don't think that's what you want. And it's about this give and take, everything, with kids, it's negotiation.
It's negotiation. I mean, I negotiate with my daughter now, 6.5, on daily basis, the iPad thing, and it's an exhaustion, right? It's exhausting.
It is, but it's also for me, it's one of those things where, we decided as mum and dad to bring our children into this digital world. They didn't ask for it as such. So our decision to have children in this time and in this age means that we also have a responsibility to understand the world that we brought them into. And that means that we do have to find some time in our incredibly busy schedules of no time to do anything to now also find a way to learn a little bit more about their world every day and have those conversations with them and talk to them about their world. So to your point, it is a case of almost, well, you may have zero interest in TikTok or Minecraft or any of these things that they're doing, but if they're interested in it, then we need to know enough about it that we can say to our son or daughter, oh, I was playing Minecraft today and this is what happened. And the first time you do that, they're going to look at you and go, what on earth do you know about Minecraft, Mum? And guess what? We've opened a communication channel there because they're talking about something, you're talking about something they're interested in. The biggest problem we've seen is that when we, as mum and dad, we always start this conversation saying, well, when I was younger.
I know. Why do we always do that? And then I hate when I hear that from,
from your mum and dad. Yeah, exactly. And then
this just comes out.
And what's happening now is that our children, they have no reference of that world because we had them and they were born into worlds of screens and digitalness. At least we had some reference of when our parents was like, they brought us up in a world which was different, but there were some similarities. Whereas our children, they look at us and go, oh, dad's talking about when he was young so many years ago. Because like she said, we're dinosaurs in that sense as well, is that we use this phrase, I'm a digital dinosaur. And they are digital natives. And so when we start talking about when we were younger and we used to go out when the sun came up and we'd only come home at dinner time and we're outside all day, every day, they just turn off because they're like, so what? That's not a world that I recognize. And then when I ask parents, I say, I remember that time as well. But I ask them today, would you let your child just go out when the sun came up and come back at sundown without knowing where they are?
That's a great question. No,
of course not.
That's a great question. That's so true.
Yeah, and so they wouldn't. We are trying to apply our experience to a world where we wouldn't even give them the same experience, give them the chance. So again, there's like hypocrisy in there a little bit, and we need to be consciously aware of that. And that's why if we can start talking to them about their world, then we have a conversation. And it's only through conversation that these things can change as they start to understand that we're not just trying to be annoying as parents. We're not trying to lock them down and give them no life. We're actually trying to protect them, which is, in my opinion, it's one of our core responsibilities as parents, is to try and protect them as much to get them through to a point where they can make the decisions on their own. And then as a young adult, you decide to do something, well, you then live with the consequences. But when you're 7, 8, 9 years old, you're still a child, but you could be making decisions that would impact you for a long, long period of time. And that's where mum and dad need to step in.
Yeah. Do you know, I've noticed recently there are cartoons that from my childhood that I loved so much. It was especially for Christmas, New Year, you watch them. So every time I try to put it for my kids, they can't watch it.
Yeah.
And I've noticed is they're not as vibrant, they're not as loud, there's no music. Yeah. It's completely different visual now, even world.
Yeah, absolutely. And this comes to this digital world of being bombarded with 4K, 8K resolution images, super bright colors and music and everything to get your attention. This is what they expect. So then when they look at some of the stuff that we used to say, what's that?
What a boring life you had.
Exactly. And this is that disconnect because they look at it, we look at it with fond memories of, every Christmas we watch this, or every holidays this is what happened. And we always had the same videos. Again, showing my age, we had videos and we'd rewind those videos and watch them over and over again and put them back on the shelf. They've got so much that just click and boom, they could watch every single movie that was ever made on their phone if they really wanted to. Yeah. And there's so much to choose from and so much information. But that's also overloading them because, well, what do you let through when you're being bombarded by all of this stuff? It's creating anxiety, in young people. It's like, oh, I'm missing out on something. I want exactly that. Because they are being exposed to so much more than we ever were when we were that age. And that's also part of the disconnect because we don't know what it's like to be 10 years old with this thing that gives you access to the entire world, we don't know what it's like. We have our preconceived ideas as an adult and a parent of what it must be like, but we don't know what it's like. And that's a big part of what we're trying to get a better understanding of, or find ways for us as parents to talk to our children about what's going on and learn. Big part of this is learning from them. And if we start talking a language that they understand, i.e. talking about the stuff that they're doing, then some of them will choose to open up, some of them won't. But the more that we do it, the more chances we get to kind of open those doors. And that's really, there's nothing else I know how to do, because there isn't a magic thing that we can just put in and say, all right, everybody's safe. If you're going to go online, which we all are, there is an element of danger. All we can do is try and reduce that as much as possible, and empowering our kids to make better decisions is the only way that we really know how to do that.
And just for those, my podcast mainly is being watched by entrepreneurs, so we're all busy, right? We all want the best future for our kids, and we can't really control everything. Just to highlight it, what are really the main dangers out there in the digital world?
To be
just to scare everyone, to make sure it's serious.
Yeah. So, there's addiction, first of all. Then there is things like cyberbullying. Then there is grooming, which is strangers contacting your children, pretending to be other children with a view to establishing a relationship with them. Once the relationship is there and the trust is there, they then ask them to do things that they know is wrong, but they think they're talking to another kid their age. They say, send me a picture of you, like this, or send me a picture with that. And they're like, I'm not so comfortable, but what's the worst that could happen? I'm 10, they're 10, I'll send it to them. Then when they send through that inappropriate image, then they get the message back saying, okay, got you. I want more of those images. Otherwise, if you don't send me more of those images, I'm going to show this image to your family, to your school, to everybody. I'm going to put it on the internet. Or they say, if you don't send me 1,000 dirhams, 5,000 dirhams, I'm going to do the same thing.
That's so scary,
It's horrible.
Yeah.
It's called extortion and sextortion when it comes to that. And I know that it happens on the ground here in the UAE, because after I've done sessions to students, I've had them come up to me and say, what should I do? This is what I've done. There's young girls in a couple of schools saying, I've done that. And I don't know what to do. Should I talk to my parents? Should I talk to the schools? Should I talk to the counsellor? And I said, well, yes, to all of those you should for sure. But when did you do this? And she said, it was about 3 months ago. So for 3 months, she's, as a 17-year-old, trying to figure out what to do. The impact on her mental well-being and everything. And also, at that age, you're not capable of figuring out the solution to it on your own. And so this is why it has to happen, because grooming is one of those horrible predatory behaviors that happens way more than most of us would care to acknowledge, because a lot of our children are left alone on the internet. They're doing stuff, they're bored, they don't think that mum and dad understand them, so they're not talking to us, and then they get a DM from somebody who looks just like them, and their kids
That's
are
very scary.
It is, and it doesn't happen to every child, and this is also very important, because you say, it's a bit sensationalist and you're trying to scare everybody. It doesn't happen to everybody, but it happens to more than we might think. And what we've seen is, unfortunately, again, with my limited experience here in the UAE, is that until it actually happens, it's not high enough up the priority list. But then as soon as somebody's child is involved in something like this, then it's, all hands on deck, go crazy. The school's not doing enough. The government's not doing enough. All the social media channels are not doing enough, and it becomes crisis. But it is preventable if we put a few of these things in place beforehand. So, grooming is one of those really horrible situations that there are organizations in the States and around the world who are built specifically to try and combat this problem, because there's too many young people that are sending inappropriate content to each other. It's a multi-million-dollar business. Let's not beat around the bush here. There are people who go to work every day, sit in a room behind a computer, pretending to be other children and contacting other young, vulnerable children out there with a view to getting money out of them. That's the reality.
It's a whole business.
It's a business. And it's a crime. It's a criminal business. But it is people's job to do that. And it's made easier by our children, who are putting everything out there.
Yeah.
Every single feeling they have. I feel sad. I feel happy. I'm here. I don't like this. I hate my parents. All of this information, which is data, and this is what I say to children and students I talk to, the most valuable resource on the planet today is not Bitcoin, it's not Ethereum, it's not silver and gold, it's data. And our children are putting all of their data out there, not thinking about it. The more you put out there, the easier it is for a predator to go, oh, okay, she's not happy, he's not happy. Well, it's an issue with boyfriend, girlfriend, mum, dad. And then the direct message comes in. Hi, I know how you feel. I hate my parents too. They don't understand me. And that young person's like, oh, yes, somebody that gets me. And they say, yeah, no. And off we go. And it's so easy to happen when there's so much information out there about who our children are, because they don't really think about what they're putting on TikTok and what they're putting on Snapchat and what they're sharing on Instagram. And this is what we have to try and help understand from our perspective as a parent, but also to help them as a teenager or a tween who, when you talk to them about this, they're like, I don't care. They just tell, I don't care, mum. And you're thinking, we really need to find a way to make you care about this, because it's so important that you get what's potentially happening here, and also then flip the narrative to say, so instead of spending time doing all of the negative stuff, why don't we do some more of the positive things? Because the same tools, you can choose Instagram to send inappropriate images, you can choose WhatsApp to send inappropriate images, and TikTok and whatnot, or you can send positive inspiring content out there, or show people that even at 10 years old, you want to be a lawyer, for example, and you think about a specific area of law a different way, and start putting that out there. And people look at it and go, oh, wow, a 10-year-old, that's incredible. And then that information is there, part of what we call their digital tattoo as they grow. And people go, yeah, I'd like to talk to her about coming and working at my law firm, because what an incredible young person. And that information has been coming out since she was 10. She's now maybe 22, 23, gone through school, gone through university, looking for work, has maintained that through her entire journey. And then you stand out for the right reasons. And that's where we want to focus, is to help them stand out, because these tools are amazing and they can design the life they want to lead if they so choose. It's just at this point in time, they're not choosing that, or it appears that way at least.
So in your initiative, you, as I understand, you go to schools, right? But you also have for parents opportunity to connect and read about it and get all the education and support.
Absolutely, yeah. So we do parent sessions as well at schools, but we also have our website, we have our social media at Cyber Safety UAE, and then we also have a parents app. So we built an app to put a lot of this content in, so that when stuff happens and when Snapchat changes their terms and conditions, we do a little video or a little PDF and post it out there, and you get notified on your smartphone. I know we're talking about trying to balance this, but it's the best way we could figure out to get the information through.
So we're going to put all the links below into this podcast. So please, and I'll be the first one to sign in definitely, because I can see a lot of, I was just shocked even myself with what's going on. I thought, like I said, if I don't allow her to have TikTok and not buy her phone at 6.5, then I've protected her. Yeah. But it's so much more.
It is.
So it's definitely, it's a great initiative. So your other business now, the CoBabble, right?
Yeah. CoBabble is the technology, and then Contractors Direct is the other one that I've got involved with as well.
Tell us a little bit about that, and how from that amazing initiative you've managed to create two other businesses.
So they're all linked. But CoBabble we built just before COVID as a reason. What we wanted to do is that if I go into schools and I stand there in front of students and parents, but if I'm stood there physically in one school, then I can't be in another school, right? And so we were looking for a way to sort of clone me effectively. And whilst cloning technology has come a long way, it's not perfected yet, so we can't just clone Barry and stick him in all of these schools. But what we could do is, we could use video, right? We could use video content like we're doing now, and turn it into small bite-sized chunks and deliver it to mums and dads through an application. Because as much as we are advocating for balance on these things, we also know that mums and dads with limited knowledge know how to use an app. They know how to download an app in most cases, and they know how to open it. And then in that application, there's all of this information about what we've just talked about in small bite-sized chunks. So that was why CoBabble was built. We launched it in February 2020, and in March, the world shut down for COVID. And our original model was for schools to purchase access to it and provide it to their parents.
Right.
Schools then said, we love what you're doing, but we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. We don't know if we're open, distance learning, we don't know what's going on. So we can't do it. And so during COVID, we said, well, we've spent all this time building a minimum viable product. What can we do? And so we realized with some input from that journey that we could turn it into a B2B platform. So CoBabble is a digitization platform. So now what it helps businesses do is, like, there's a lot of older fashioned businesses that still use paper and pen for their checklists, their audits, their forms.
Yeah.
And instead of doing that, you can do it on your smartphone, because a lot of our employees already have a smartphone. So there's no investment in hardware. They also know how to use an app. And instead of printing out, audits, for example, a safety audit can be 400 questions long. And we know that people are printing out 400 questions of paper and then wandering around their facility and making sure that it's safe and ticking boxes and whatnot. But then sometimes that data doesn't get anywhere. So what we've done is digitize that. You can do it on your phone. As you've submitted it, the business has access to it. You can allocate actions and so forth. And so we went down the B2B route, and now businesses are taking it on. We've got the third largest port in the UK using it to update their staff when their agenda changes. And one of the things that used to happen was they were expecting a huge boat to come in on Pier 1, and then whilst the boat was en route, it said, oh, no, you got to go to Pier 8. And there was no way of letting everybody know that they were supposed to go to Pier 8. They would print off the schedule change, stick it on the wall in the cafeteria, and hope that everybody knew that they were supposed to go from 1 to 8. Now with CoBabble, you just update this schedule, upload it, everybody gets a notification, oh, Pier 8. And that simple thing was something that was a game changer for them. And then we've got organizations that were using it for COVID-19 checklists. Whilst we were going through COVID, every morning at 6:30, it pinged out, have you taken your temperature? Have you got your personal protection equipment? Have you done this? Have you done that? Compliance, effectively, from that side of things. Health and safety audits now also being out there. And then one of the most recent things is this check-in, check-out feature. So what was happening in the construction industry, and this is the link to the next business, was that, for example, you would have a contractor that would come to your site and say, okay, I'm coming to you at 9 o'clock and I'm going to do a day's work. And you say, okay, great. You're busy doing whatever you're doing. And so once he's seen you or she's seen you, she then goes across the road to another job, says, oh, hi, I'm here to do your job. I'm going to be here all day. And then charging both clients. Yeah. And so the client was the one that was suffering there. So actually what you can do now is say, well, you've got to physically be in my office, and it will track, just like a Fitbit or an Apple Watch, is that you check in physically, you get access to the forms that you need, you do the job that you're supposed to do, and then you check out. And now there's actual responsibility and accountability for both the contractor and also the client. And so that's what CoBabble has evolved into, is a digitization platform for businesses, saving them time and saving them money at the end of the day. And that then led me into Contractors Direct, which is a portal that we have pre-qualified contractors on. So when you do have an office and you need to fit it out, whether it's furniture, IT, infrastructure, or you need to just build the whole thing, we can help you with that process. And so actually CoBabble is a tool that we utilize under that. And then my digital marketing experience is also why we became a partner in that business, to help really push it forward, because it's also a game changer in the contracting and project management world, using the technology, leveraging the technology. And at the end of the day, it provides peace of mind to the client because it's free to the client, and then we make our money from the contractor that's successfully appointed. And what it's trying to do is also make sure that those legitimate businesses are getting the leads, because again, not to be too disparaging, but in this part of the world, there's lots of people that have a lot of experience with a company that said, yes, we can do everything, paid the money, and then, that build quality is terrible. That's not what we ordered. This is supposed to be finished 6 months ago and we're still waiting. And we're trying to take that element out of it. So that's how it all kind of ties together.
So and this is what incredible is, that from the purpose-driven idea, from very impactful idea, you managed two profitable, successful businesses come out of it, and I hope it's just the beginning.
Me too.
So it's this. That's why I, from my side, what I always say to people I mentor and startup entrepreneurs, don't think first about how much money you want to make. Think about how much impact you want to bring, and then money will come for sure if you're hardworking and smart working guy.
Yeah. Eventually. It takes time. I think that's really important, because we go through these things and there's points where you're like, you know what, I'm not sure this is such a good idea. But then to your point there, you really believe in that, what you're doing. That's the fuel to keep you going through those points where you're thinking, double guessing yourself and thinking, I can't do this. I need to go and do something else because we're running out of, runway funds, whatever. But if you believe in something strong enough, then you will keep going through it.
Yeah. And when the time is really hard, when you're doing something good, it gives you the energy to continue.
100%.
Right.
100%.
I want to ask you 3 questions that I always ask my guests
Okay.
now. So the first one, to be a successful entrepreneur, what do you need to do regularly? The second question, what do you need to stay away from? And what you shouldn't be afraid of?
Right.
So what is to do regularly to be a successful entrepreneur?
Well, it's a good question. What do you need to do regularly? I think that routine is very important. And I know it's kind of trending now, but it's really about looking after you as the entrepreneur. And so having your routine to whatever it is. So for example, for me, and I break the routine, but I try to get back to it as much as possible, is get up early. I go and do my walk. I go to the gym, and by 6:30 I'm back and ready to do
6:30 morning.
Yeah.
So
So
you
I get up
manage
at 5.
all that
Yeah.
before 6:30.
Yeah. So I get up at 5.
I thought 6:30. I wake up 6:30. I thought it was early.
Yeah, well, this is to fit it in, right?
Oh
Otherwise,
my.
I don't know.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
get up at 5. I get out. I do my walk. I go to the gym, and then I'm back to help with breakfast and whatnot for the kids. Then they get out the door, and then I have a routine of what I do first, what I do next, and it's also really important to have time allocated to revenue generating tasks. I know that we've said we shouldn't be focusing on the money, but at the end of the day, a business requires transactions to happen. And so it's about making those calls. It's about responding to those emails. It's about, in some cases, getting on social media and responding to messages from that side of things. But all of this can be categorized as routine, and having a routine that has something in there for you as a individual, not company or brand related.
Now, what about not to be afraid of?
Not to be afraid of. Taking risk and persevering. These are the 2 things to not be afraid of. Taking risk because you need to push yourself outside of where you're comfortable in order to grow. I know it's a cliche, but it's so true. It is a cliche because it's true, is that once you take a risk, a calculated risk, I'm not just saying throw it all out the window and go for it. You look at the situation and you say, okay, there is an inherent risk here, but I'm going to take that decision. It's kind of also like that idea of, if somebody asks you to do something that you're not quite sure how to do in your business, you say yes, and then figure out how you're going to do it. There's a risk involved in that. But as long as it's not something completely unrelated to what you do, but you think, I could probably find a way to do that. That pushes your business forward. It pushes you as well, because the other thing is learning. You are then learning. If you're not always learning, then you're stagnating. And if you're stagnating, that's dangerous for any business owner or any business, or as an employee. Again, another cliche, every overnight success is usually 10 years in the making. People don't see a lot of the 10 years worth of work to get you to say, he sold this company for $100 million. You say, yeah, and this is the sacrifice that he made to get there. It didn't just happen overnight. It's just that you never heard of the company. Today it was in the news because he sold it for 100 million. Oh, brilliant. How did he do that?
I can do that also.
Yeah. And so it's this perseverance of again, comes back to what you said though, that you believe in something so strongly that you're building your business around that you keep going, even when it looks like this is the end of the road. Either I've run out of money, I've run out of whatever it is that, okay, I haven't actually run out. I need to reframe that. I can do this. And if I do that, that will allow me to put more energy back into this and I can take another couple of steps forwards. But it's that perseverance and keep going.
And the last one is to stay away from.
What to stay away from? I think the only thing I can say there, the one thing I would advise is to stay away from negative people. And it's a common one, but it's something that's become even more important to me right now, is that people will try and take you down. And it's usually their self-limiting beliefs that do that. And for whatever reason they have that, you don't have to take that on yourself. And if you have a conviction in something, you don't need to worry about what other people think.
Thank you very much. And I think I have this podcast because exactly for that reason, I have all the positive, amazing guests on this podcast that are finally surrounded myself with positive people.
Amazing. And it makes a huge difference, right? How you feel.
My life has changed in the last 1 year, I must say, since I've started running it.
Fantastic.
Thank you so much, Barry. And guys, please share, like us, subscribe. I would really, really appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Yes. Yes. Finally we've done it. Yeah.
A year in the making. Brilliant.
It was worth it.
It was.
I enjoyed it.